everyone, and welcome to another News Coolum video. And, well, a little bit of an update. So, I'm sorry I haven't posted. I never actually finished the Boltmas videos between a bunch of stuff that's been going on, work, and then some other things that have happened on the, national, international, geopolitical landscape. I'm sure there's a lot. And I've been debating about whether I should chime in on this. I know Nikki and Kate over at Transport Evolved have, made a lot of very valid points, right? Concerning points. And they've sort of chimed in with, some of their political thinking on it as well. And yeah, I have plenty of thoughts, and I've kind of tried to keep this channel separate from my political beliefs, but we might be getting to a stage in history where that also is impossible to do. But I'll just put it out there for you all if you want to hear the wacky, zany political musings of a random electric vehicle traveler and public charging infrastructure user. In terms of the Elon fint in the room, I'm just going to say this now. I've never fully covered Tesla, partially because I thought they were over-covered by a lot of EV advocates, EV influencers, EV media. I felt like they were getting a disproportionate amount of the coverage, which led to sort of bias in the EV coverage. So it's why a lot of people are so misled about, other EVs, what other automakers are doing in the EV field, what other charging providers are doing in the other field. Like ChargePoint is, at risk of being delisted from the New York Stock Exchange right now for having a market cap that's literally less than the value of the equipment that they actually already have in the ground. It's an absurd thing. There's a 30% short interest on the stock, which for those of you who are not in the finance industry is absurdly high, 2 to 3 times higher than what would be considered like a normal, healthy, short interest. So there's definitely a concerted movement by some groups to try to tank the stock price. And why would you do that? Well, maybe if you were a competing charging provider, or maybe you just saw an easy mark and thought you could make some money off of it, right? As I like to say, getting back to Elon, capitalists gonna capitalize. And, I know some people have mentioned that it's conservative politics. Trust me, that's not my concern at all. I see zero difference between Democrats and Republicans. And maybe I'm letting a little bit of my political leanings out. The two groups are basically separated, by a D and an R. Like they're two faces of the same authoritarian coin that does not actually represent the people who are voting for them. So you get what you vote for, I guess, but it's not political leanings. It's simply put, Elon is in a position to increase his personal wealth, self-aggrandizement, and punish his competitors, right? So if you look at everything that he's done and I say in office, and I use that term loosely because he's not an elected official. If you look at everything that he's done, it all connects back to either an agency that is looking to regulate him, is already regulating him, is investigating one of his businesses, is filing a lawsuit against him, right? Every single one of them. And really the only one, and arguably the one that's done the most objective good, is undermining USAID, which is just a U.S. soft power imperial engine that basically, they're directly responsible for 500,000 people dying in Syria, right? Like, this is not an organization that we should be applauding in any way. And so they got defunded. And I wish I could say, oh, Elon did that because he's a nice guy, because he knew all of those things. I don't think that's the case, and I've heard some people say that, oh, Elon is just so stupid. He read all of these things and thought they were actually doing those good things that they were describing, and so he wanted to cut back because he's a big meanie. So he's a stupid meanie. I don't believe that's it. And then again, I also don't believe that he did it because he is altruistic and knows that these programs are fronts for the CIA and other various deep state agencies. It really isn't that deep. And I'll say this, it also has absolutely nothing to do with one of his direct AI competitors winning a contract with USAID. Couldn't have anything at all to do with that. So, let's just say that what he's doing with his granted position, Elon is being Elon. He's the Elon that I warned you about and been warning you about for 5, 6, 7, 8 years if you followed this channel. He didn't found Tesla, right? It was a hostile takeover. He really didn't actually do anything for the company of Tesla. He doesn't have an innovative or creative bone in his body. He's a salesman, and often a snake oil salesman. He's a grifter. He's, like I said, a capitalist who's going to capitalize on anything that you give him. All of the best things that have come out of Tesla were either there when Elon got there, were contributions from specific engineers who somehow didn't get credit. We could, look at Peter Rawlinson, helped with the engineering of the Tesla Model S, but there were hundreds of other engineers that contributed equally, got zero credit. And then some of the other things were just ideas that came from Tesla owners. They were generously given by the customers of Tesla, and Tesla, to their credit, acted on those ideas, but those were not internally generated ideas, and they were definitely not ideas that came from the CEO, the nothing of Tesla, whatever you want to call him. So, there's also a movement, by the way, that if you follow the Common Sense Skeptic at all, if you've watched any of his videos, he's trying to push to have a push for the stockholders in Tesla to ouster Elon and his, his appointed board of sycophants, right, at Tesla, and then reinstall Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning into executive positions at Tesla. So that's something that if you're a Tesla stockholder, maybe you want to consider. I think it would be better for the company and it would probably be better for the country. And, the other thing too, and this is, I'll just say it, around these parts, we don't cotton to fascists. We just don't. And so you can say it's just trolling, whatever, but even if they're just Nazi dog whistles, even if you're just posting up 14 flags to, wink, wink at white supremacists, not acceptable, at least not in these parts. I have too many ancestors who sacrificed too much for this country, who would punch a fascist in the face if they were still around, to, support that behavior, even in trolling. And, these things have consequences. Tesla is already feeling them. It's not United States. We don't have specific laws prohibiting that kind of iconography or symbolism, but in places like Europe, there are specific laws. They're much closer to that history of fascist overrule, right? Of seeing the consequences of that when it does, percolate into your government, and you do see those consequences. And then in Europe, Tesla's sales are sinking, as a result of it. People want to say, because there's a new model coming. Sure, if you want to cope, say that. Say people are waiting for the next Model Y, or people are waiting for the next model, whatever other model it is they have. No, you don't see a 50 to 60% decline in sales in a month, because people are waiting for the next model. That's not what that's from. So if you want to cope and say that's what it's, that's what's causing that sales slump, feel free. But we'll see you in a month or two and explain why the sales are even lower, or possibly non-existent. But that being said, there's also a movement. Was it Sheryl Crow, I believe, who sold her Tesla back? And there's a lot of people that are boycotting Tesla now because of the actions of their CEO. And I'll say this is just purely from my perspective, because I think people already know that I didn't really cover Teslas a whole lot. I didn't cover their offerings in terms of their automobiles very much, again, because I thought that they were over covered, that there's too much coverage of them, to the detriment of other EV models, other EV model automakers. But I did start to cover the superchargers as they became open to more than just Tesla EVs, because I thought it's an important, infrastructure, it's an important resource for all EV drivers to have, but that's done. So I'll say this, from this point moving forward, this channel is, unless there's some sort of a significant change, I'm not going to cover any more Tesla topics. I'm not going to cover Elon in any way. He's got enough attention as it is. And on the sort of personal front that you don't see on this channel, I personally, who, I'm normally very involved in other channels when they post. I make comments, I view, I like. I'm subscribed to a lot of different EV content creators. If your content is about a Tesla primarily, or just, it happens to be the focus or emphasis is on using the superchargers, or how efficient it is to travel long distances in a Model 3, I'm, on a personal level, not going to be engaging in that either. I'm not going to be consuming any of that content. I'm not going to be watching any of those videos. I'm not going to be commenting on any of them. So if you cover Tesla, I'm probably not there. Right. So it's just something that at this point, something's got to give. And if that means a full boycott of Tesla as an automaker, until they bring in a CEO and a board that actually represents the consumer base, so be it. So it's no big loss for them. I was never there to begin with. But yeah, that is my excessively long update on where I am in the present moment. But you know what? We're burning daylight, and I still do want to get some shopping done, and I want to check some things out. So let's hit the road.